Hey, thank you for joining in. It's New Year's Eve and it's raining, and the camera started before I was even ready. So, thank you for joining in, stopping by. First of all, this might be second of all, I wish you a very happy 2025. So, we are going to pick up where we left off. And it was Alan who was about to tell us what was going on and some of the craziness that was going on. So, can you hear the rain? I like the sound of rain. It sounds so peaceful and relaxing. Oops. So here we go. So Alan says, I have been drinking this day. I had decided I was going to go see Deb this day. I called and told the police I'd be coming through their town. It was a town where the police were known for pulling people over for the slightest of anything. So I got in my car and went flying up the highway. I was doing about 70 in a 45 mile per hour zone. The police would have stopped me even if I hadn't called and told them I was coming through their town. Well, they gave me a speeding ticket and said I couldn't drive home. I'd have to have someone come and get me and my car. So I called my man Steve to come and get me. He had a girlfriend with him coming to the police station to pick me up. So Steve drove me home to my parents' house. Mom was sitting on her front porch when we pulled up. After I got out the car, I told my mother what had happened. She wasn't happy about my actions, and that was putting it mildly. I went inside to lay on my parents' couch. After I sobered up, I went into the kitchen where my mother was peeling potatoes. My pop was upstairs changing clothes. My mother told me to take a piece of raw potato. It would take the liquor smell off my breath. My little sister was looking at me eat the potato like, ilk. Her face was all torn up with distaste. Mom then told me she'd take me home and for me to straighten myself up. But first, she told me I acted like a fool, calling the police on myself. I agreed with her. How in the world could I have not agreed? So Mommy told me to go on before my father came back downstairs and there would be some trouble. Pop would eventually hear about this. I'd hear it from him another time. But I thought it would be better to hear it later. Man, I wasn't happy with how I had fucked up. I got a speeding ticket, drunken driving ticket, and would have to go to some classes to help get points off my license after this stunt. So my mom and I walked to her car for her to take me home. By the time I reached my place, I had decided I needed a break from drinking. I had been doing stupid shit, getting myself in trouble. Not big trouble, but it could lead up to real trouble. I mean, after I sobered up, I'd regret acting a fool. Anyway, I made it inside my crib, took off my clothes, and got right in the shower. I was still a bit tipsy. So, he was saying he was still a bit tipsy. I heated some leftovers and sat on the bed in my drawers watching television, waiting for my food to get warm. I found me a good movie, got my food, and a huge glass of iced tea. I lived a block from the ocean. There was always a lovely breeze blowing through my windows. Usually I didn't even need a fan. With the ocean breeze blowing through my windows, sometime before midnight, I fell asleep. The next morning I woke up to a beautiful sunny day. I walked out into my yard to see the sun still coming up over the ocean. The air was fresh and cool. I walked down to the beach to a telephone and I called my job to let them know I wouldn't be in today. Instead of going to work, I took care of my business, paid bills, and dropped in to see my Uncle Jay for a minute. I got to my Uncle Jay's crib around noon. He was sitting on his porch that was fully decorated with artificial flowers, a television, and a fan. He was eating his lunch and told me to join him, and so I did. He didn't try we he didn't try to be like he was like Sammy Davis Jr. His family was doing fine, so I left there and went to the grocery store shopping. So when we say he's like Sammy Davis Jr., my uncle was suited up every single day, always in a different suit, hat to match, jewels galore, driving a Cadillac with a phone in it, even if the phone wasn't connected to anything. So anyway, went down to pick up my groceries. The store I stopped in wasn't my usual. I usually went over by my parents to shop. Over near my parents, they had a new well kept store. Ooh, it is thundering out here now. Um, so they were the first to have the storm effects on the vegetables and fruits, keeping them fresh. That was just coincidence that the storm effect came in the story, but it just started thundering here. This day I stopped in another neighborhood, and it wasn't a bad neighborhood, but the store tended to cater to the poorer folks, I guess. I got a few items to hold me over until next weekend when I do my real shopping. While I was in line waiting to pay for my food, the female employee at my register was being bickering with the lady working at the customer service. They got to yelling to each other. Then the woman at the register where I was started yelling clean across the store, calling the other woman all out of her name. I was like, damned. They were raising so much hell with each other, and the manager was trying to handle the situation between the employees and attempting to calm his customers. I started to leave my basket of food and just go to the store I normally shopped at, but I didn't feel like driving all the way to the other store. Shopping again, then driving back home, so I bear the ignorance that was going on, paid for my stuff, and made it home to my little sanctuary with its relaxing breeze. I still hadn't seen her talk to Debbie since I had called to tell her I was coming to see her, though. So I decided to call her right then from the telephone at the store. I picked up the receiver, then second thought not to call her. I hung the phone up, put my food in the car, and went home. I was relaxing, eating my chocolate chip cookies, when I heard a light tap at my door. I could see her face in the screen. It was Deb. I opened the door and invited her inside. She told me she had someone waiting for her. Just a minute, she'd be right back. She was going to tell her friend she could leave. As she walked to the car to tell her friend, I was looking at Debbie. She had put on a few pounds, and she looked good. She had put them on in all the right places. I hadn't seen her in a few months. So she came back inside. I fixed her a glass of ice cold Pepsi, which was her drink. She seemed a bit nervous, but I guess I was too. Then I asked her if she wanted something to eat. She didn't want anything. We talked and watched television for a few hours. Then she decided it was time for her to go home. We didn't bring up trying to get back together. We just updated each other on what was going on in our lives. After we had finished talking, I offered to take her home. Of course, she accepted. I put a shirt on and my shoes, got my keys, and off we went. We drove along the beach for a few miles, headed in the direction of her place. As I pulled up in front of her apartment, I was hoping she'd invite me in. She kissed me on my cheek, and she said she'd talk to me later. I guess it was good she didn't invite me in. That could have been opening up a can of worms. I drove back home reminiscing about Deb and I, and also thinking about Lynn. It was still early when I got back home, so I could mentally relax and get ready for work the next day. I went about my regular daily schedule for the next few weeks, except no drinking. I did spend one Saturday night with Lynn. She came up to see me. I asked her what would her boyfriend think about this. She smiled and said he probably wouldn't even care. That's if he even noticed she wasn't home. I don't see him much at all. To be honest, I believe he's seeing someone else. I'm waiting for him to tell me before I have to tell him about him seeing somebody else other than me. I know he's seeing another woman, so I'm not worried about it, and neither should you. So you might hear noise in the background. It's New Year's Eve. Everybody is home, and they're not far from where I am reading this. So anyway, we enjoyed a nice weekend. She was a sweet girl and fine. Why was I bragging, or why was I dragging my feet? Just not willing to get into a relationship that probably would have been so good for me. A fool, that's what Steve has said I was. I'll probably mess around and let her slip away, then regret it. Who knows, maybe I'd get rid of these cold feet of mine before it was too late. So, again, I thank you guys for stopping in. Stay safe. Enjoy your holiday. And again, a happy 2025 to you.